Here we have f of x equals 2 minus the square root of 9 plus x. F of negative 4 would be equal to 2 minus square root of 9 plus x is being replaced with negative 4, so that's where we place the negative 4. I recommend using parentheses every time you're going to insert a variable or replace a variable with a numerical value. It'll help to reduce errors that happen sometimes with exponentiation or losing negative signs and such things. Okay, now according to the order of operations, we have 2 minus the square root of 9 plus negative 4 happens to be equal to 5, and 2 is an integer and 5 is a radical, and these are not like terms, so we're just going to stop there, put a box around it, and be happy. We've got 2 minus the square root of 5. Moving over to the next example here, different type. This one's called a rational function because it's got a numerator and a denominator that are polynomials. Here g of x equals 3x squared minus 1 over 4x. So when we evaluate for g of negative 4 here, we're going to have 3 times negative 4 squared minus 1 over 4 times negative 4. So this time, with the order of operations, we need to do that exponentiation on the top first. So we'd have 3 times negative 4 squared, which is 16, minus 1 over, and on the bottom we have a 4 times a negative 4, and that's a negative 16. 3 times 16 is 48, and 48 minus 1 is 47. So in the numerator we have a 47. On the bottom we have a 16, which is negative, so I'll put a 16 there and put the negative out in front, and that's what I would interpret as our last answer, or our final answer I should say. Now for the last function, absolute value, we have h of x equals 3 times the absolute value of 2x minus 1. Let's find h of negative 4. That would be equal to 3 times the absolute value of 2 times negative 4 minus 1. 3 times the absolute value of 2 times negative 4 would be negative 8. Negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9. Of course, the absolute value of negative 9 would be positive 9, and 3 times 9 is 27. So the final answer for this one is 27. So why don't you take a chance here and try some on your own, same types of functions. Pause the video and see if you can get the correct answer for these 3 functions evaluated at negative 2. Assuming you paused and gave it a shot here, for the first one, hopefully you got 3 plus square root of 2 plus negative 2. 2 plus negative 2 is 0, so we have a square root of 0 being added on to 3. But the square root of 0 is just 0, and 0 added to anything just leaves us with 3. So hopefully you got a final answer there of 3. In the blue, g of negative 2 with this rational function, did you get negative 2 squared minus negative 2 all over 2 times negative 2? Negative 2 squared is 4, minus a negative 2 means we would be adding a 2, and 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Numerator looks like 6, denominator is negative 4, and this time we can reduce the fraction by dividing a 2 out of the top and the bottom, so the final answer here after simplification would be negative 3/2. And finally, in green, an absolute value function, h of negative 2 would be 2 times the absolute value of 3 times negative 2 plus 1, replacing x with negative 2. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6, and negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. That's in an absolute value. The absolute value of negative 5 is 5, and therefore the final answer there would be 10.